Captain Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of Luna Station, his coffee growing cold in his hands as he stared at the three massive ships hanging in space like crystal mountains. They had appeared 12 hours ago at the edge of the solar system, and nothing had been the same since. The ships were unlike anything humanity had ever built or imagined, their surfaces gleaming with an inner light that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Admiral Lisa Bennett arrived on the morning shuttle from Earth, her face showing the stress of emergency meetings that had lasted all night. She walked directly to Jake, her military boots clicking on the metal floor. "Any changes in their position?" she asked, not taking her eyes off the alien vessels. Jake shook his head. "They haven't moved since they sent that first message. Just, sitting there, waiting for our response." The message had been simple and clear, broadcast in perfect English across all human communication channels. "We come in peace. We are the Meridian Alliance. We wish to meet and speak with your leaders. We bring gifts of friendship and knowledge." Henry Clark, Earth's best diplomat, had been rushed to Luna Station along with a team of scientists and military advisors. He was a thin man with gray hair who spoke many languages and had solved conflicts all over Earth. Now he faced something completely new, something that no human had ever dealt with before. Dr. Amy Rodriguez unpacked her equipment in the station's main laboratory. As humanity's leading expert on biology, she would study any alien life forms they encountered. She had spent years wondering what alien life might look like, and now she was about to find out. Her hands shook slightly as she set up her scanning devices. The first alien shuttle approached Luna Station 3 hours later. It moved without any visible engines, gliding through space like a fish through water. The shuttle was small compared to the massive motherships, but it was still larger than any human vessel currently docked at the station. Colonel Pete Williams watched from the security center as the alien craft docked with Luna Station. He had been in charge of the station's defenses for 5 years, and he knew every weapon, every shield, every possible threat. But nothing had prepared him for this moment. His fingers rested near the emergency alarm, ready to sound it if anything went wrong. The airlock cycled, and humanity met its first alien visitor. Ambassador Velther was tall and graceful, standing almost 8 feet high. His skin had a blue-gray color that seemed to shift in the light, and his eyes were large and dark. He wore robes that seemed to be made of liquid metal, flowing and changing as he moved. When he spoke, his voice was melodious and calm. "Greetings, people of Earth," Velther said, bowing slightly. "I am Ambassador Velther of the Callan species, representing the Meridian Alliance. We have traveled far to meet you, and we bring wonderful news." Admiral Bennett stepped forward, her military training keeping her voice steady despite the historic moment. "Welcome to Luna Station, Ambassador. I am Admiral Lisa Bennett, representing Earth's Unified Defense Forces. We are honored by your visit." Velther smiled, showing teeth that were perfectly white but slightly pointed. "The honor is ours, Admiral. We have been watching your species for some time, observing your growth and development. You have impressed us greatly with your resilience and creativity." Henry Clark joined the conversation, his diplomatic skills taking over. "Ambassador, your message spoke of friendship and knowledge. We are eager to learn more about your alliance and your intentions." "Of course," Velther replied. "The Meridian Alliance is a confederation of over 300 worlds, united in peace and prosperity. We have brought stability to countless civilizations, sharing technology and wisdom that has improved the lives of billions." Dr. Rodriguez stepped closer, her scientific curiosity overcoming her nervousness. "How long has your alliance existed?" "For over 2,000 of your years," Velther answered. "In that time, we have ended wars, cured diseases, and brought enlightenment to species across the galaxy. We offer the same to humanity." The ambassador reached into his robes and produced a small device that glowed with soft blue light. "This contains samples of our medical technology. It can cure any disease known to your species and extend human life by centuries. It is our gift to you, a sign of our good intentions." Admiral Bennett exchanged glances with Colonel Williams. The offer seemed too good to be true, but the alien appeared sincere. "What do you ask in return for such generous gifts?" Velther spread his hands wide. "Only friendship and cooperation. We ask that humanity consider joining our alliance, becoming part of something greater than any single world can achieve alone. Together we can explore the galaxy and bring peace to all who inhabit it." The meeting continued for hours, with Velther describing the wonders of the Meridian Alliance. He spoke of worlds where hunger and poverty no longer existed, where war was a forgotten concept, where every citizen lived in harmony with their neighbors. He offered humanity advanced technology, faster-than-light travel, and membership in a galactic community, but Colonel Williams noticed something that bothered him. Every time someone asked about the details of how the alliance worked, or what happened to species that refused to join, Velther's answers became vague and rehearsed. His smile never quite reached his eyes, and there was something cold behind his friendly words. As the first day of contact ended, humanity's leaders agreed to take 6 months to consider the offer. It seemed reasonable, even generous. But some, like Pete Williams, wondered if they were being offered a gift or walking into a trap. Commander Kyle Turner pulled his black stealth suit tighter as he floated in the airlock of the Phoenix. 6 weeks had passed since the Meridians arrived, and humanity had learned to smile while secretly preparing for the worst. The Phoenix was humanity's most advanced stealth ship, invisible to most scanning systems. And tonight it would carry Kyle and his team to Europa. The ice moon of Jupiter looked peaceful from space, but intelligence reports suggested the Meridians had built something there in secret. Kyle's mission was simple: find out what they were hiding and get proof of their real intentions. Lieutenant Brad Cooper checked his equipment one final time. He was the team's technology expert, able to hack into almost any computer system. His job was to break into Meridian databases and download whatever information he could find. Beside him, Sergeant Lucy Martin adjusted her weapon. She was small but deadly, trained to handle any threat they might encounter. Dr. Claire Foster worked late in her laboratory on Earth, studying the medical device that Ambassador Velther had given them. The alien technology was incredible, more advanced than anything humans had ever created. But the more she studied it, the more worried she became. The nanobots inside the device were designed to repair human cells and extend life, just as promised. But they also contained additional programming that seemed to serve no medical purpose. Claire ran test after test, trying to understand what the extra code was meant to do. Captain Ryan Davis commanded the deep space vessel Ranger as it approached the Kepler system, 300 light-years from Earth. The Meridians had mentioned this system as one of their success stories, a world they had helped achieve peace and prosperity 2 centuries ago. What Ryan found was not prosperity, but ruins. The 4th planet in the system showed clear signs of bombardment from orbit. Cities had been turned to glass, and radiation levels were still dangerously high after 200 years. The few remaining structures were clearly not built by the original inhabitants. Ryan's science officer, Lieutenant Kate Powell, scanned the planet's surface with growing horror. "Captain, I'm detecting massive graveyards. The bodies show signs of genetic modification, like someone was experimenting on them." On Europa, Kyle Turner and his team crept through the ice tunnels toward the Meridian facility. Their suits kept them warm in the freezing environment, and their equipment remained silent as they moved deeper underground. The facility was larger than they had expected, carved into the ice with technology that left the walls smooth as glass. Brad Cooper found a terminal and began his work. The alien computer system was unlike anything he had encountered, but he was determined to crack it. After an hour of careful probing, he managed to access the database. What he found made his blood run cold. The facility contained biological samples from dozens of different species, each one labeled with dates and locations. The earliest samples were over 2,000 years old, matching the time when the Meridian Alliance claimed to have begun. But these were not samples from willing allies. Each species file contained detailed plans for what the Meridians called integration protocols. The plans showed how to study a species' weaknesses, how to manipulate their leaders, and how to modify their genetics to make them more compliant. Lucy Martin stood guard while Kyle and Brad worked. She heard footsteps echoing through the tunnels and signaled for silence. 3 Meridian guards were approaching, their tall forms moving gracefully through the ice corridors. Lucy raised her weapon, but Kyle motioned for her to wait. The guards passed without detecting the hidden humans. Their conversation was in the Meridian language, but the team's translators picked up enough to understand they were discussing specimen collection schedules and neural conditioning progress. Back on Earth, Dr. Foster made a breakthrough. The extra programming in the Meridian nanobots was designed to alter human brain chemistry. The nanobots would make humans more trusting, more willing to accept authority, and less likely to resist commands. They were not medical devices but control systems. She immediately contacted Admiral Bennett, who was in a strategy meeting with other military leaders. "Admiral, you need to hear this. The Meridian gift is not what it seems. These nanobots are designed to control human behavior." Admiral Bennett felt a chill run down her spine. How long before the effects would show? If someone used the device, the changes would begin within days and become permanent within weeks. "Admiral, if the Meridians have given similar devices to other species, it would explain how they maintain control over their alliance." Intelligence analyst Nicole Harper worked through the night in her office, piecing together intercepted communications from the Meridian ships. The aliens thought their messages were secure, but human technology had found ways to listen in. The messages painted a very different picture from Ambassador Valthar's peaceful words. The Meridians discussed resistance levels and compliance timelines. They talked about humanity as if they were livestock to be managed rather than partners to be respected. One message particularly disturbed Nicole. It was from Valthar to his superiors, reporting that the human specimens show higher than expected paranoia levels and recommending accelerated integration procedures. If voluntary compliance fails? On the Ranger, Captain Davis made another disturbing discovery. His team found the remains of what appeared to be the planet's original inhabitants. They were a peaceful species that had achieved space flight but had never developed weapons of war. The archaeological evidence showed they had welcomed the Meridians with open arms. The gratitude had not saved them. Dr. Patricia Jones, a computer specialist, worked with Claire Foster to analyze the control systems built into every piece of Meridian technology. They found that every device contained hidden transmitters that sent data back to the alien ships. The Meridians were not just offering gifts. They were setting up a surveillance network. Patricia discovered that the devices could be activated remotely, turning any Meridian technology into a weapon against its human users. "They're not trying to help us," she told Admiral Bennett. "They're setting up to control us completely." Kyle Turner's team finished their mission on Europa and prepared to leave. They had gathered enough evidence to prove the Meridians were not the peaceful allies they claimed to be. But as they tried to escape, alarms began sounding throughout the facility. The team ran through the ice tunnels as Meridian guards pursued them. Brad Cooper's hacking had been detected, and now they had minutes to reach their ship before being captured or killed. They burst from the facility into the frozen surface of Europa, the Phoenix waiting for them in the distance. Behind them, Meridian aircraft emerged from hidden bays, their weapons charging with deadly energy. Kyle pushed his team harder, knowing that everything depended on getting their evidence back to Earth. Humanity needed to know the truth about their alien visitors before it was too late. As the Phoenix lifted off from Europa with enemy fire lighting up the space around them, Kyle transmitted a coded message to Earth. "Package confirmed. The gift is poison. Prepare for war." The 6-month negotiation period was only half over, but humanity's leaders now knew they were not being offered peace. They were being prepared for slavery, and the clock was running out. General Frank Carter stood in the war room deep beneath Cheyenne Mountain, staring at the holographic display that showed every human ship and station in the solar system. The evidence from Europa had changed everything, but they had to be careful. The Meridians were watching, and any obvious military buildup would trigger their invasion early. Admiral Susan Lee entered the room carrying classified orders that would reshape humanity's defense strategy. Her ships were scattered across the solar system in what appeared to be routine training exercises, but each vessel was actually moving to predetermined defensive positions. Operation Garden Party is proceeding on schedule, Susan reported. 2. Outside observers were conducting the largest peacetime naval exercise in human history. The Meridians seemed to believe we're showing off for their benefit, Frank nodded grimly. How long before all ships are in position? 72 hours. Every major installation will have overlapping defensive coverage, and our strike forces will be ready to respond to threats anywhere in the system. On Mars, Colonel Beth Evans supervised the construction crews working around the clock to dig deeper into the red planet's crust. The mining operations looked normal from orbit, but they were actually building humanity's secret fortress. Underground, cities could house millions of people, and hidden weapons platforms could defend against orbital bombardment that Beth watched as massive boring machines carved new tunnels through the Martian rock. Each tunnel was wide enough for military vehicles and deep enough to survive nuclear strikes. The workers thought they were expanding mining operations to supply Earth's growing space industry, but they were actually building humanity's survival. Shelter. Engineer Tony Mitchell worked in a secure facility on Luna Station, carefully taking apart pieces of Meridian technology. His team had been studying alien devices for weeks, learning how they worked and finding ways to make them better. Every piece of technology the Meridians had shared contained hidden control systems, but Tony was learning to remove them. The power source is incredible, Tony told his assistant, Carol Davis. It's at least 50 years ahead of our best fusion reactors, but look at this circuit board. See these extra connections? They're not needed for the device to function. Carol examined the alien circuitry through a magnifying lens. What are they for? Control signals. Every device can receive commands from Meridian ships. They could shut down our power grids, disable our weapons, even turn our own technology against us. But if we remove these circuits and replace them with our own, Tony's team worked day and night to create hybrid technology that combined Meridian advances with human independence. They built new weapons that could punch through alien shields, power systems that could not be controlled remotely, and communication. Devices that the Meridians could not monitor. Dr. Greg Thompson ran his psychological training programs in secret facilities across Earth. His research had shown that the Meridian neural conditioning worked by exploiting specific brain chemistry patterns. But humans who underwent his mental conditioning could resist alien mind control techniques. The training was disguised as stress management seminars for military personnel and government workers. Participants learned meditation techniques, mental focus exercises, and psychological resistance methods. They thought they were learning to handle job pressure, but they were actually becoming immune to alien mental manipulation. Communications specialist Rachel Stone coordinated the secret network that spread Thompson's training throughout the solar system. Her job was to make sure every important person received the psychological conditioning without alerting Meridian surveillance. Rachel used civilian communication channels to send coded messages that looked like routine business correspondence. Entertainment programs contained hidden training materials, and social media posts carried instructions for resistance techniques. The network grew daily as more people learned to protect their minds from alien influence. Captain Drew Phillips prepared Luna Station's defenses while maintaining the appearance of normal operations. The station's weapons were upgraded with hybrid technology, but they remained hidden behind false bulkheads and disguised as civilian equipment. Drew's security teams trained for boarding actions and close combat while pretending to conduct routine drills. They practiced fighting in low gravity, defending critical systems, and evacuating civilians if the station came under attack. Admiral Janet Price commanded the Space Forces defending Earth itself. Her ships were positioned to look like they were protecting important shipping lanes, but they could quickly form defensive formations around the planet's most critical installations. Price studied the tactical reports from Kyle Turner's mission to Europa. The Meridian ships were powerful, but they relied heavily on their advanced technology. If humans could neutralize their technological advantages, the aliens might not be as invincible as they seemed. Major Steve Adams worked with civilian authorities to prepare Earth cities for invasion. Emergency shelters were expanded and stocked with supplies, but the work was disguised as earthquake preparedness and disaster relief planning. Anti-aircraft weapons were installed on tall buildings, camouflaged as communication equipment. Steve's teams practiced evacuating large populations and defending urban areas against superior forces. They learned to use the cities themselves as weapons, turning every street into a potential ambush and every building into a fortress. On Europa, the Meridians increased security around their facility after Kyle's team escaped. But they did not know how much information had been stolen, and they continued their work without realizing that humanity now knew their true purpose. Ambassador Velther attended another diplomatic meeting with Henry Clark, discussing the benefits of joining the Meridian Alliance. His words were as smooth as ever, but Clark now heard the threats hidden beneath the friendly promises. "Your species shows remarkable potential," Velther said, his dark eyes studying Clark's face. "But we have noticed some concerning developments. Your military exercises seem unusually extensive for a peaceful species." Clark smiled diplomatically. "We want to be worthy partners in your alliance, Ambassador. Our exercises are meant to demonstrate our capabilities and our readiness to contribute to galactic peace." Velther nodded slowly. "Of course, but remember, excessive militarization can be seen as aggressive by other alliance members. It would be unfortunate if your species gained a reputation for violence before you even joined us." The threat was clear, but Clark kept his expression neutral. "We appreciate your guidance, Ambassador. We certainly want to make a good impression." Deep in the Martian underground, Colonel Evans watched as the final weapon systems came online. Humanity's secret fortress was nearly complete, with enough firepower to defend against a fleet of invasion ships. The Red Planet had become humanity's ace in the hole, a surprise the Meridians would never expect. Dr. Amy Rodriguez analyzed the biological samples that Kyle's team had recovered from Europa. The genetic modifications performed on other species were horrifying in their scope. The Meridians had not just controlled other civilizations. They had changed them at the fundamental level, removing aggression, independence, and the ability to resist authority. "They're not trying to destroy us," Amy told General Carter. "They want to keep us alive but turn us into something else, something that can never threaten them or disobey their commands." The 6-month negotiation period was running out, and humanity's leaders knew the Meridians would soon demand an answer. The alien ships continued to wait at the edge of the solar system, but intelligence reports suggested more vessels were moving toward Earth through hyperspace. General Carter called a final meeting of humanity's top leaders. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have prepared as well as we can. Our people are trained, our defenses are ready, and our technology has been upgraded. But we must remember that we are fighting for more than just our lives. We are fighting for the right to remain human." The trap was set, the players were in position, and the game was almost ready to begin. Humanity had accepted the Meridians' offer of peace talks, but they had prepared for war. Soon, everyone would learn which approach had been the wiser choice. Ambassador Velther stood in the conference room aboard Luna Station, his friendly mask finally slipping away. The 6-month negotiation period had ended 3 days ago, and now his true nature showed through. His dark eyes held no warmth as he delivered humanity's ultimatum. "The time for discussion has passed," Velther announced to the assembled human leaders. "The Meridian Alliance has been patient, but your species has had sufficient time to make its choice. You will accept integration into our collective immediately or face the consequences of your refusal." Henry Clark felt his mouth go dry, but years of diplomatic training kept his voice steady. "Ambassador, we were under the impression that membership in your alliance was voluntary. Are you now saying we have no choice in the matter?" Velther's lips curved into a cold smile. "Choice is an illusion, Diplomat Clark. Every species believes they have options until they learn the truth about the galaxy. The Meridian Alliance brings order to chaos and peace to conflict. Your resistance serves no purpose except to cause unnecessary suffering. Admiral Lisa Bennett stepped forward, her hand resting casually near her sidearm. And if we refuse your generous offer, then you will join the others who made the same foolish decision, Veltha replied. Your cities will burn, your leaders will be removed, and your survivors will be modified to better serve the common good. The end result will be the same, but many more of your people will die needlessly. As if summoned by his words, massive shapes began appearing throughout the solar system. Meridian warships decloaked around Earth, Mars, and the asteroid belt, revealing that they had been hiding in human space for months. The alien vessels were enormous, each one larger than Earth's biggest space stations. Captain Drew Phillips felt Luna Station shake as Meridian assault shuttles clamped onto the station's docking ports. Red lights flashed throughout the facility as emergency alarms screamed their warnings. All personnel to battle stations, Drew announced over the intercom. This is not a drill. We are under attack. The first wave of Meridian troops poured through Luna Station's airlocks, expecting to find surprised and helpless humans. Instead, they walked into carefully prepared kill zones where human soldiers waited behind reinforced barriers. Drew had spent months planning for this moment. Every corridor had been turned into a defensive position, every room contained hidden weapons, and every system had backup power that the Meridians could not control. The alien troops found themselves fighting for every meter of space above Earth. Admiral Janet Price watched as her carefully positioned fleet moved into defensive formations. The human ships looked small compared to the massive Meridian vessels, but they carried weapons upgraded with alien technology and shields that could not be remotely disabled. All ships, this is Admiral Price, she broadcast on the command frequency. Execute Plan Delta. Show these invaders what humans do to uninvited guests. The space battle began with a thunderous exchange of weapons fire that lit up the darkness between worlds. Meridian ships fired energy beams that could melt through conventional armor, but human vessels darted between the attacks like fighters avoiding the swings of giants. Captain Megan Burke commanded the destroyer Halifax as it raced toward a Meridian battleship 10 times its size. Her crew had trained for this moment, knowing they would be outgunned but not outfought. All weapons, target their shield generators. Let's see how tough they are without their fancy protection. The Halifax's missiles streaked across space, each one carrying warheads designed by Tony Mitchell's team to exploit weaknesses in Meridian technology. The alien shields flared and failed, allowing follow-up attacks to strike the warship's hull directly. On the surface of Earth, Major Steve Adams watched as his hidden weapon systems came online throughout major cities. What had appeared to be communication towers and building decorations revealed themselves as missile launchers and energy cannons. The Meridians had expected to face primitive human defenses, but instead encountered a planet bristling with modern weapons. Meridian dropships descended toward New York, London, and Tokyo, their hulls gleaming with energy shields that should have made them invulnerable to human weapons. But the defensive systems that Steve's teams had installed were not entirely human anymore. They fired hybrid projectiles that punched through alien shields like paper. Colonel Beth Evans stood in the command center deep beneath Mars, watching as the red planet's hidden defenses engaged the Meridian fleet. The aliens had ignored Mars, seeing it as a minor mining colony not worth their immediate attention. That mistake was about to cost them dearly. Fire all batteries, Beth ordered. Let them know that humans don't just fight on Earth. Massive energy cannons emerged from what the Meridians had thought were mining excavations. The weapons had been built into the planet's crust itself, powered by fusion reactors buried kilometers underground. They fired streams of superheated plasma that could cut through even the largest alien warships. Back on Luna Station, the battle had turned into a brutal close-quarters fight as human and alien forces struggled for control of critical systems. Colonel Pete Williams led his security teams, Through corridors filled with smoke and the smell of ozone from energy weapons, the Meridians were tall and strong, but humans fought with a desperation that surprised their alien attackers. Every room became a battlefield, every junction a fortress. The aliens had superior technology, but humans had spent months preparing for this fight. Dr. Greg Thompson's psychological training proved its worth as Meridian soldiers attempted to use neural conditioning weapons on human defenders. The alien devices that should have made humans helpless instead had no effect on troops who had learned to shield their minds. "The neural disruptors aren't working," a Meridian officer reported to his commander. "The humans appear to have some form of mental protection." The alien commander's eyes narrowed in surprise and anger. "Impossible. No primitive species has ever developed resistance to our conditioning techniques." General Frank Carter coordinated the global defense from his command bunker, watching as reports flooded in from battle zones across the solar system. The situation was desperate, but humanity was holding its ground better than anyone had dared hope. "Casualty reports," Frank requested from his aide. "Heavy losses on both sides, General. But their initial assault has been blunted. They expected to overwhelm us in the first hour, but we're still fighting after 6 hours of combat." Communications specialist Rachel Stone worked to maintain contact between human forces as Meridian jamming systems tried to cut their coordination. Her networks had been designed to operate independently, using civilian infrastructure that the aliens had not thought to target immediately. The Meridians had planned for a quick victory against a surprised and unprepared enemy. Instead, they found themselves fighting a species that had spent months preparing for war while pretending to negotiate for peace. Every human installation was defended, every ship was armed, and every soldier knew exactly what they were fighting for. Ambassador Velther stood in the ruins of Luna Station's conference room, his elegant robes torn and stained with alien blood. He had expected to be overseeing a surrender ceremony by now, but instead he found himself trapped in a battle zone as human forces refused to yield. "This is impossible," he said to his aide. "Our intelligence indicated they were a peaceful species. How did they prepare for war while maintaining the pretense of diplomacy?" The aide, wounded and exhausted, could only shake his head. "They deceived U.S. Ambassador. While we planned their integration, they planned our destruction." The first day of the war ended with neither side achieving decisive victory. The Meridians had superior technology and numbers, but humans had preparation, determination, and the advantage of fighting for their home. The battle for humanity's survival was just beginning, but the invaders had learned that conquering Earth would not be the easy victory they had expected. Captain Megan Burke crept through the corridors of the captured Meridian command ship, her assault rifle ready as she led her strike team deeper into the alien vessel. 3 weeks had passed since the invasion began, and humanity had learned to take the fight to their enemies instead of just defending their homes. The ship's interior was unlike anything human, with walls that curved and flowed like liquid metal and lights that pulsed in colors that had no names. Burke's team moved silently, their boots making no sound on the strange floor that seemed to absorb all noise. Lieutenant Don Foster checked his scanner and whispered into his radio. "Captain, I'm reading multiple alien life signs ahead." "Looks like a command center." Burke nodded and signaled for her team to spread out. The capture of this ship could provide intelligence that would change the course of the war. The Meridians had superior technology, but they were not as unified as they pretended to be. On Mars, General Alex Stone prepared for the largest offensive operation humans had ever attempted. Operation Prometheus would strike at Meridian supply lines throughout the outer solar system, using upgraded human ships to hunt alien vessels in the asteroid belt and beyond. "Remember," Stone told his ship commanders, "we're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're fighting to free every species the Meridians have enslaved." Intelligence reports suggest there are resistance movements on dozens of conquered worlds, waiting for someone to show them that the Alliance can be beaten. Captain Kyle Turner stood on the bridge of the upgraded destroyer Phoenix, watching as his task force prepared to depart Mars orbit. His ship now carried weapons that could match Meridian firepower and shields that their energy beams could not penetrate. Tony Mitchell's engineering teams had worked miracles, but the real test would come in battle. Dr. Patricia Jones sat in her laboratory on Earth, putting the finishing touches on humanity's secret weapon. The computer virus she had developed was designed to exploit weaknesses in Meridian network systems, and it could spread through their entire fleet if properly introduced. The beauty of it, Patricia explained to Admiral Bennett, is that they'll never see it coming. Their ships are all networked together for better coordination, but that same network becomes a vulnerability when we turn it against them. The virus was hidden inside what appeared to be routine communication protocols. Once it infected a single Meridian ship, it would spread to every connected vessel, causing system failures, communication breakdowns, and weapons malfunctions. Colonel Jason Scott led the ground assault on Europa, where humanity had decided to turn the Meridian facility into their own intelligence-gathering center. His troops moved across the frozen surface in powered armor, their weapons upgraded with captured alien technology. The facility that Kyle Turner's team had infiltrated weeks ago was now heavily defended, but Jason's forces had learned to fight like the Meridians themselves. They used hit-and-run tactics, superior knowledge of the terrain, and weapons that the aliens could not counter. "This is for all the species you've murdered," Jason muttered as his team placed explosives around the facility's main power generator. The blast would not destroy the complex, but it would disable their defenses and allow human forces to capture valuable intelligence. Back on the captured command ship, Captain Burke's team reached the bridge and found themselves face to face with a Meridian admiral. The alien was tall and elegant, with silver markings on his blue-gray skin that indicated high rank. Admiral Mordeth looked at the humans with something that might have been respect. "You fight better than we expected," he said in accented English. "Most species surrender after their first cities fall. You have lost millions, yet you continue to resist." Burke kept her weapon trained on the alien officer. "We don't know how to quit. It's one of our many personality flaws." Mordeth actually smiled at that. "Indeed. But you should know that your resistance has consequences beyond your own world. The Alliance is mobilizing additional fleets. Soon there will be too many ships for you to fight." "Maybe," Burke replied, "but we'll make them work for every victory. And we might just teach some of your allied species that the Alliance can be beaten." The Meridian Admiral's expression changed, showing the first hint of uncertainty Burke had seen from any alien. "What do you mean?" Burke pressed a button on her communicator, and Patricia Jones's virus began uploading into the ship's computer. "Systems, we mean that your alliance is about to have some serious technical difficulties." Across the solar system, Meridian ships suddenly found their systems failing as the virus spread through their networks. Weapons stopped firing, shields flickered and died, and communication systems broadcast nothing but static. The perfectly coordinated alien fleet became a collection of isolated vessels, each one struggling with cascading system failures. Commander Ian Foster led a squadron of human fighters through the chaos, targeting disabled Meridian ships before they could restore their systems. His pilots had trained for this moment, knowing they would have only minutes to exploit the virus attack before the aliens found a way to counter it. "All wings, this is Foster. Pick your targets and make every shot count. We may never get another chance like this." The space battle turned in humanity's favor as crippled alien vessels fell to human weapons fire. Ships that had seemed invincible just hours before now drifted helplessly through space, their crews unable to fight back effectively. On Earth, communications networks buzzed with coded messages as resistance cells on conquered Meridian worlds learned what was happening in the Sol system. For the first time in centuries, someone was successfully fighting back against the Alliance. Captain Ryan Davis monitored the communications from his position in deep space, relaying messages between Earth and the growing network of rebel species throughout the galaxy. "Command, we're receiving transmission from the Vorthan Resistance. They're launching coordinated strikes against Meridian installations in their system." Similar reports came in from dozens of worlds as oppressed species took advantage of the chaos to strike back at their conquerors. The virus attack had not just disrupted the Meridian fleet and Sol system. It had spread throughout their empire, causing system failures and communication breakdowns on. Commander Ian Foster led the final strike force toward Saturn, where the main Meridian fleet was making its last stand. The alien ships had regrouped after the virus attack, but their coordination was broken and their confidence shattered. Behind Ian's squadron came the largest human fleet ever assembled. Every surviving ship united for one final battle. Admiral Kevin Wright stood on the bridge of the battleship Constitution, watching as his forces approached the enemy formation. The past month of war had cost humanity dearly, but they had learned to fight as one people with one purpose. Every ship in the fleet carried weapons upgraded with captured alien technology, and every crew member knew they were fighting for the future of their species. All ships, this is Admiral Wright. Today we end this war and send a message to the galaxy that humanity will not be conquered or controlled. Make every shot count. The space around Saturn became a battlefield as human and Meridian forces clashed. For the final time, energy beams cut through the darkness, missile explosions lit up the rings of the giant planet, and ships from both sides fought with desperate courage. But this battle was different from the earlier fights. The Meridians no longer had the advantage of surprise or superior coordination. Their neural conditioning weapons had no effect on human troops trained by Dr. Thompson's techniques, and their technology was no longer a mystery to human engineers. Captain Ryan Davis commanded a squadron of fighters that darted between the massive alien battleships, targeting their weak points with precision strikes. His pilots had learned to fight like humans instead of trying to match alien tactics, using speed and unpredictability to overcome superior firepower. Delta Squadron, follow my lead. We're going to show these invaders what human ingenuity looks like when it gets angry. The fighters dove toward a Meridian dreadnought, their weapons firing concentrated bursts that exploited the ship's design flaws. Tony Mitchell's engineering teams had studied captured alien vessels for weeks, learning exactly where to hit them for maximum damage. On Earth, General Nancy Turner monitored the battle while preparing for the difficult decisions that would come after victory. Intelligence reports showed that Meridian reinforcements were still weeks away, but humanity faced a choice about what to do. With their defeated enemies, some military leaders wanted to pursue the retreating Meridians and destroy their remaining fleets. Others argued for focusing on defense and helping the liberated species rebuild their civilizations. Nancy knew that the choice they made would define what kind of people humans would become. Dr. Patricia Jones worked with communication specialists to coordinate with resistance movements across the galaxy. Her virus had given oppressed species the chance they needed to fight back, and now dozens of worlds were declaring their independence from the Meridian Alliance. General Turner, we're receiving messages from over 200 worlds. They're asking for help in fighting their Meridian occupiers. Some are requesting technical assistance, others want military advisors. Nancy studied the star charts showing the locations of rebel worlds. We can't help them all directly, but we can share what we've learned. Send them the technical specifications for our hybrid weapons and the psychological training protocols. Let them know they're not fighting alone. The battle around Saturn reached its climax as Admiral Wright's fleet broke through the Meridian defensive lines. The alien commander, faced with the choice between destruction and retreat, chose to save what remained of his forces. The surviving Meridian ships activated their faster-than-light drives and fled toward the edge of the solar system. Their invasion had failed, their technology had been captured, and their reputation for invincibility was broken forever. Commander Ian Foster watched the alien fleet disappear into hyperspace, knowing that humanity had won more than just a single battle. They had proven that the Meridian Alliance could be defeated and that knowledge would spread throughout the galaxy like wildfire. Captain Megan Burke transmitted the captured intelligence from the Meridian command ship to Earth, revealing the locations of Alliance strongholds and the true extent of their empire. The information would help coordinate resistance movements and guide future operations against Meridian forces, but the most important discovery was the proof that the Alliance was built on lies and fear rather than genuine cooperation. Most member species had been conquered and controlled, not willingly allied. With that control broken, the entire Meridian Empire was beginning to collapse. Admiral Janet Price stood in the observation deck of her flagship, looking out at the debris field that marked humanity's greatest victory. The cost had been enormous, with millions of lives lost and entire cities destroyed. But the species had survived, and they had done more than just defend themselves. Communications send a message to all human forces. The invasion has been repelled. Earth is free, and the Meridian threat to our solar system has been eliminated. Back on Earth, the celebrations were mixed with mourning for the fallen. Memorial services honored the brave men and women who had given their lives to preserve human independence. But there was also hope for the future and pride in what they had accomplished together. Jake Morrison, now promoted to Admiral, walked through the rebuilt sections of Luna Station. The facility bore scars from the battle, but it was functioning again and serving as headquarters for humanity's new role in galactic affairs. He stopped at the observation deck where he had first seen the Meridian ships months ago. The view was the same, but everything else had changed. Humanity was no longer alone in the galaxy, and they were no longer helpless against alien threats. A communication screen activated, showing the image of a delegate from the Vorthan Resistance. The alien looked remarkably similar to humans, despite evolving on a world hundreds of light years away. Admiral Morrison, we wanted to thank your species for showing us that freedom is possible. Our world has been under Meridian control for 3 centuries, but today we drove out the last of their forces. Jake smiled at the alien delegate. We didn't fight this war to become conquerors ourselves. We fought it to prove that every species has the right to choose its own destiny. Similar messages arrived from dozens of worlds as the news of humanity's victory spread. Species that had been enslaved for generations were breaking free from Meridian control and reclaiming their independence. Dr. Amy Rodriguez coordinated the scientific exchange programs that would help liberated species rebuild their civilizations. Instead of forcing their own culture on others, humans shared knowledge and offered assistance while respecting each species' right to develop in their own way. The Meridian Alliance still existed in the core worlds of the galaxy, but its power was broken. Without the ability to control their subject species through fear and technology, they faced rebellions on every frontier and the loss of most of their empire. 6 months after the invasion ended, Earth hosted the first Galactic Freedom Conference. Representatives from over 50 species met to discuss cooperation, trade, and mutual defense against future threats. The gathering was everything the Meridian Alliance had pretended to be but never was. Admiral Jake Morrison addressed the assembled delegates, his words carried across the galaxy by communication networks that could not be controlled or censored. The Meridians promised us peace, but they brought only slavery. Humanity prepared for war, but we chose to build something better. Together, we can create a galaxy where every species is free to determine its own future, where cooperation is voluntary, and where peace comes from respect rather than fear. The conference established the Free Worlds Coalition, an alliance based on the principles that humanity had fought to defend. Member species would share technology and knowledge, while maintaining their independence and unique cultures. As Jake looked out at the diverse gathering of beings from across the galaxy, he reflected on how much had changed since that first day when alien ships appeared in human space. The Meridians had intended to add humanity to their collection of conquered species, but instead they had awakened something that would reshape the entire galaxy. Humanity had prepared for war when others promised peace, and that preparation had saved not just their own species but countless others. The price had been high, but the galaxy was now a freer place because humans had refused to surrender their independence. The age of Meridian dominance was over, and a new era of galactic freedom had begun.